Okay, so now David and I have been together for 18 goddamn years. And if you are astounded by the fact, can you imagine how we feel? In a way, it feels surreal, but in a way, it feels like I can hardly even remember who I was before David. And because, back then we were just like kids. So all this like feeling lost in your 20s and making youthful mistakes, we did that together. So although I definitely often did feel lost in my 20s, I never truly was because, David was always there, keeping an eye on me and me on him. So like right now, for all of the, hundreds of videos that I made for this channel, for every single one, he's been behind the camera, like right now, keeping an eye on things, telling me to, fix my collar or like smooth my hair. So basically having my back. So I thought that we would take stock today, what really is an 18-year relationship and just how many of the myths and prejudices that we have about long-term relationships are really true. Like how it's impossible to keep the spark, or like that you stop being physical, or that you no longer have anything to talk about, or that you get bored and start missing how it feels to be single. Is there any truth to these like expectations on what a long-term relationship is like? Well, let's see. I do have to say though, of course, I can only speak for our relationship and use us as an example. I have no idea how other 18-year-old relationships work, but I'm sure those of you with long-term partners will help us out by sharing your thoughts with us and let us know if you agree with my observations or if your relationship is completely different. Because in many ways, David and I don't think they were very representative of like the average relationship for many reasons. First of all, we don't have children. That's an anomaly. And of course, it affects our dynamic a lot, being two adults instead of two adults and a cluster of young ones. Also, we work together. We run a business 50-50. So we don't get like a break from each other during the day. And we have like no colleagues or office gossip to bring home with us to talk about over dinner, And thirdly, and I think most importantly, we are the kind of couple who, don't really have a life outside the relationship. There's something people often say that to make a relationship work, it's important that both parties have a strong individual life with like friends and hobbies and all of that outside the relationship. We don't really. David and I spend more or less all of our time together. We have like the same friends, the same hobbies. We want to watch the same TV and spend a Saturday the same way. Like our kind of life rhythm is on perfect beat. We want to sleep at the same time and eat at the same time, and when we travel we want to sightsee the same things, and we like the same friends, and working together is a very conscious choice for us, because if you think of how you sort of spend a third of your adult life at work, we just don't want to miss out on that much time being away from each other. A shocking fact for you, I think during these 18 years together, we probably spent less than 20 nights apart. Let's just sit with that for a moment. Isn't that quite wild? We're basically the same person at this point. So David and I, we don't adhere to the whole, opposites attract, leaving some mystique, distance makes the heart grow fonder kind of narrative. I'm sure that's how it is for many couples, and kudos, whatever works. But for us, we want to be together all of the time, which brings me to myth number one, that, being together for this long with the same person will make you bored and make you long to be single again, or at least like curious about being single and daydreaming about what it would be like to meet someone new. Again, this sounds completely reasonable to me, to wonder what a life with someone else might be like. And sometimes getting bored with being around the same person year after year after year. I wouldn't have been surprised if that was the case for me. I would find it, natural and not something to worry about. But for some reason, I never ever feel this way. Like the thought of being single to me, it seems exhausting. I don't picture it feeling like a freedom or an adventure for me personally. I see it as scary and tiring. Again, a lot of people love being single and find partnerships scary and tiring. We're all different, but I'm here to say that at least for some people, a long-term relationship brings none of that boredom that we seem to be told by, Hollywood that all relationships go through. And I think the number one reason for this is that with David and me, so far, the relationship has never grown stale. Like, our life is really quite exciting and often stressful and exhausting. So there is no sense of us being like stuck in a boring life. Maybe often when someone starts feeling bored with their partner and starts to wonder if the grass is greener somewhere else, it might not be the partner they're bored with, but like the life that they've built together. You know what I mean? I don't know. Or maybe it's just the person. I'm sure it happens as well. One thing that definitely isn't boring, in fact, the exact opposite of boring, is working together with your partner. It is the most fun, but also the most stressful at times. So a hardcore everyday routine and good work organization is beyond important, which brings me to this week's sponsor. I want to say a big thank you to Oakywood for sponsoring this week's video. Oakywood is a handcrafted wooden accessories and furniture brand that will make your workspace more practical, but above all, more beautiful. You know me, the one thing that's most critical for me in terms of, focus and productivity is a tidy space, like a minimal aesthetic and good work organization. And when it comes to tidiness and aesthetic, let me show off some of Oakywood's absolutely gorgeous accessories that embodies this principle of both function and form. Because Oakywood agrees with me that a well-organized workspace isn't just about practicality, it's about creating an environment that sort of inspires you to do your best work. I mean, just take a look at the stunning desk organizers and accessories. They not only keep everything neatly in place, but also elevate the aesthetic of your workspace and home. What I love most about Oakywood is that their products are not only beautiful, but also built to last. These items are handmade with care in Poland. Each piece boasts of a timeless aesthetic and superb quality. And here's the best thing. Oakywood is committed to sustainable production practices, ensuring that every item is crafted with the environment in mind, which you can read more about on their website. So whether you're looking to declutter your workspace or simply want to invest in thoughtfully crafted pieces that will stand the test of time, Oakywood has you covered. Trust me on this one. I've absolutely loved showing up to work in the morning with my tea and my jazz playlist and all my little pens and trinkets and gadgets neatly organized. How lovely. So why not give Oakywood a try for yourself? Simply click the link below in the description and use my promo code to enjoy a very nice 10% discount. Now, that is a good deal. Go treat yourself. And once again, a huge thank you to Oakywood for the support. And now let's get back to the video. Which brings me nicely to myth number 2, that it's difficult or impossible to keep the spark alive and well for 18 years. This is a strange one for me because when I think about this, the whole spark thing, the infatuation or passion dying after a while in a relationship, I'm a little bit confused because me myself, I never ever think about it that way. I guess it's again, I don't usually look at our relationship as something separate outside of our life. I think of that relationship as the playing ground for our life. It's not me and David and the relationship as a separate entity to look at from the outside. It's me and David growing kind of from our relationship. Have you read Rachel Cusk's Second Place? So in it, if I remember this right, the main character talks about her first marriage and compares it to her second. And she says something in the first marriage, it's two plants growing up in the same pot, all intertwined, where the roots grow into each other, trying to make space for each other. Where in the second marriage, it's two fully grown plants trying to fit themselves into the same pot. In this analogy, David and I are definitely marriage number 1. At this point, I can't tell which root is his and which is mine anymore. And the shape of me, I don't know how I would have grown up if I wouldn't have been leaning into or away from David. You know what I mean? So that means that I don't walk around thinking about our relationship and worry about keeping it fresh or passionate. I worry about keeping our whole life passionate though, because we are both quite passionate people, and especially me gets quite easily bored by monotony. And I mean, we of course have our ups and downs. So whenever our life goes a bit lackluster, or we're stressed and tired and lose our energy, or when we have a period where we fight more or get annoyed with each other more, because believe me, we do get annoyed with each other. So of course, that means that our dynamic also goes lackluster. But when we have an exciting everyday where a lot happens and we're thrilled about, how life is turning out, then our dynamic is also energized and thrilling. So it's really not more complicated than that, honestly. Next myth, and I think I had this prejudice myself when I was younger, That like when you've been together for this long, you stop having things to talk about and you sit around in like comfortable silences most of the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love me a comfortable silence, but I don't know, for some extraordinary reason, we just keep chattering non-stop year after year. I mean, we do work together, so doing all the creative stuff together and running a business together, of course we will have so much to talk about there, but also I think it's just an urge we have, both David and I, to tell each other absolutely everything we're thinking or feeling or see or hear or read or notice. We just have to tell the other person. So like whenever we do have the odd night away from each other, like one of us seeing friends or doing something without the other, once we get home, we do like an almost scene by scene, minute by minute account of what happened and, you know, who said what. I think it's like, because we've spent 18 years together, almost non-stop in each other's company, we're so used to the notion of all of our experience, all of our, you know, adventures and every single anecdote, the other person was there. Very little happens in my life that David is not there also experiencing. So whenever we are apart, I want him to know exactly what happened. The same with our childhoods. We talk about them so much because I guess in a way, almost by now, it feels a little weird that so much happened in my life that he never saw. If David and I are like the first marriage type of relationship, one of my best friends is in her second marriage era, and she often says that to me, that her first marriage type of relationship was very much like David's and mine. They told each other everything and they were so intertwined and like so close. But her second marriage type of relationship, they're not like that at all. They have much more like individuality, and she somehow doesn't feel the need to tell him everything that she's thinking and feeling all the time. I think all this makes sense, and there is like no good or bad here in my opinion. It's just two different types of partnerships. Does this make sense to you? Have you ever experienced either of these two types? Like, which one would you prefer to have as a partnership? Next myth is another quite strong expectation on a long-term partnership, I feel like. And it's the myth that like every relationship is moving towards one of two different fates. Like either you grow apart or you hold each other back. As if it's like impossible to grow and, you know, evolve and fulfill your full potential without your partner either freaking out and trying to hold you back or letting you evolve with the result that you grow apart. And yeah, I definitely think this is a very common problem in long-term relationships. I know I've seen it with so many of my friends that, you know, as soon as one person goes after something that they want and start changing and evolving, the other person freaks out and is like so scared of being left behind that they start to hold the other person back by like discouraging change and discouraging them going after what they want. I probably think this is what kills most long-term couples in the end, like either making you break up or making you both sort of miserable. And like, I totally get it. I think this would definitely kill mine and David's relationship too. The feeling of like not growing into the person you're supposed to be because the other person is scared that you will change too much and leave. But going back to the whole keeping the spark alive type of thing, I think there is nothing sexier and nothing that makes a relationship more passionate than seeing the other person grow and surprise you and impress you by becoming like a bigger and fuller version of themselves. That is sexy. Besides, personally, I think I have two jobs in this relationship. First of all, to make sure that I live a safe but exciting life. But secondly, to make sure that David lives a safe and exciting life. We have like this one unbreakable rule, David and I, and that is if we disagree about where our lives should go next, if one of us says, I won't be happy in life unless I get this, the other person just has to suck it up and go along for the ride. I would rather that our relationship ends than David staying in a relationship that holds him back and makes him a lesser person than he is. Well, at least in theory, I would rather it ends. In reality, I can't honestly think of anything worse happening to me, and I'm pretty fucking sure both David and I would prefer to be really quite unhappy together to being happy and fulfilled without one another. At this point, my friends, it would take a lot for me to untangle my roots from the pot that I share with this gorgeous specimen of a man and find out who I would be in another pot without him. You know, infidelity, bedazzlement, murder, moving to Antarctica, him becoming a Tory. I think more or less whatever life can throw at us at this point, I just kind of roll with the punches here. Because if there's one thing I'm dead certain of in my life, even in the most boring everyday mundanity or in the middle of the most awful hectic fight, is that I just simply don't want anyone else. I love having him there all the time. I can't get bored with the boy, kind of like keeping an eye on things, telling me to, when to fix my collar, smooth my hair, just having my back. And yes, I do try to return the favor. It is my life's mission at this point. So it fits me, this type of symbiotic, intense relationship. I'm very sure it's not for everyone. We're all made differently, and not least in how we want our relationships dynamics to be. So please share. Have you ever had a long relationship? Was it like mine and David's, growing up all intertwined? Or what was it like? And what do you think that you would prefer? An opposite attract type of relationship? Or like us, like the other way around, sort of soulmate type of coupledom? Or do you prefer singledom for life? Do share with the group, and thank you so much for celebrating David's and my 18-year anniversary with us. It's mad, isn't it? How did this happen? What is going on? Whichever relationship that you have in your life, I hope that you're feeling loved and seen and that they have your back. And if you don't feel that way, maybe seriously ask yourself if this is a person you want to spend the next 18 years with. Because I don't think any of us should ever settle for anything less than a David. I'm sure you're with me on this. Give me a like because, hey, 18 years is quite an accomplishment, don't you think? And if you're new to my channel, feel free to subscribe and I will see you already next week. That's it for today. I actually had so much fun talking about this today, and I think it's probably because I just feel really goddamn grateful. Okay, that's it. Thanks for spending time today and take care of yourself till next week. Okay, puss puss.